keep yourself muted just so that we don't have the distractions, but unmute as you need to speak. And Brendan, do you want to go over the, or I can go over the points that Brendan put up on the screen. This is our first time, so please be patient and bear with us as we figure out some of the processes, especially in voting and quorum check. Mute yourself unless you're speaking. When you are speaking, if you could introduce yourself, that would be helpful, and your organization. Are other people hearing an echo?
Yes,
Andy,
I'm hearing an echo.
Andy, I'm going to mute everyone, and Andy, you go ahead and unmute yourself.
How do we?
All right, so Brendan has superpowers and he can mute everyone and has done so. You can manually unmute yourself, but at least that way everybody starts out muted as we go forward. So that will hopefully avoid the background noises and the echo. As we go forward, we're going to actually use the attendance as a roll call for to establish quorum. So that'll be next. But if you do want to speak, you're welcome. We're going to be following the chat, and the chat is up in your upper right-hand corner. You'll see a couple of people and the number 27, and then there's like a talking bubble. If you click on the talking bubble, you'll see the chat. And Eric did us the favor of starting it out. So if you do want to speak or have a question or want to make a statement, that's a great place to do it. But if you feel like it's getting missed and you need to jump in, unmute, and we'll take it from there. But otherwise, our hope is to use the chat, and then we can call on you, and then you can unmute. That way, we don't have to worry about people talking over each other. And so with that, we're going to do the attendance, and then the rest of we only have 2 voting items at this time. One will be approval of the minutes, and the other is the appointment of Cynthia for environmental at large alternate member. And so those we'll do as a basically speak up if you don't approve, so by a consensus almost. And then the big item will be just taking comments, and we'll try to honor system first, RAC members, and then members of the public. Right, so before we get rolling, any other questions on logistics? Or Brendan, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, for the people calling in, they're not able just to click to unmute themselves if they want to speak. I believe if you press *6, for those on the phone only, *6 will unmute your audio. So I'm going to add this. If someone who is calling in, maybe John, would you go ahead and go, or someone calling in only, *6 and see if you're unmuted?
And then speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had to press unmute, but *6 and then unmute, and I was unmuted.
Okay, great. So that's how *6 is if you're only on the phone. That's how you can mute and unmute yourself. And I added the note here on the screen. Well, I guess this doesn't really help at all, but we can reference it. *6 to mute and unmute if you're on the phone. Thank you.
Great. All right, so now Brendan's going to go through roll call. This will be a little bit of chaos because we don't know if somebody is here but not unmuted, etc. So bear with us as we go through. But as your name is coming up, please unmute yourself and just say present. Sure. And then we'll go through the roll, and then we'll ask for visitors to name themselves if they're here in a capacity that they want to be identified.
All right, so District 1.
Present, Dennis Oaks.
Thank you. District 2.
And
Okay.
just so that folks know, I'm just going to chime in like no District 2, et cetera, so that people know that if they said yes, but we didn't hear you, that way you'll know. Okay, thanks.
All
Greg.
right. District 3. District
Okay,
4. Oh, sorry. Go. Yeah, I'll let you do that, Andy. Yeah.
yeah, no District 3.
District 4.
Yeah, Jim Garing, I'm here.
Thank you, Jim. District 5.
District 5, Greg Grable, here.
Thank you. Agricultural at large.
Kurt or George, either here? Okay, that's too bad.
Okay. Development at large.
Yo, I'm here.
I saw Tim. Was
Great.
that Tim?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Environmental at large.
Dave Chip.
Eric Greening here.
Great. And
And so we have Eric Greening, Christine Mulholland, David Chipping. Was Stephanie Wald? I don't think so. Okay.
Coastal San Luis RCD.
I'm here.
Linda.
I am here.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Linda.
Upper Salinas, Las Tablas RCD.
Not here.
Okay. Atascadero Mutual Water Company.
Jamie Hendrickson, present.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
California Men's Colony.
Nope.
Camp Slow.
This is John Reed, and I'm in.
Thanks,
Oh,
John.
Thanks, John.
Hi.
County Farm Bureau.
Hey, this is Brent Burchett, Executive Director of Slow Farm Bureau, and our alternate, James Green, he's no longer with our organization, so if you could please update, put my name as alternate. I don't think our member, Steve Clark, was able to be with us today.
Okay, yeah, we do have a process for that, and I saw your comment here, so we'll connect after the meeting. I'll need to get a letter from you and run that through the board to have you officially added. But
Sure,
thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, Golden State Water.
Present.
Is that Anthony?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Shandon San Juan Water District.
I think I saw Steve Stinton.
I thought I saw Steven too.
Yeah, I see him on here. Steve, are you able to unmute? Or chat?
I see the square that says SS. Is that you, Steve?
All right, well, let's maybe circle back on that one because I think he's here.
Okay. Estrella El Palmar Creston Water District.
Lee Nesbitt, here, present.
Thank you, Lee.
Steve, I see your comment in the chat. Can't unmute. Okay, thank you. Let's see. Let me look for you.
Can you just unmute him manually and then he can mute himself with his regular device?
It says he has a mic not connected.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that you, Steve?
Yeah?
Okay, great.
All right.
Steve is present. I'll go back to mute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, City of Arroyo Grande.
No AG.
City of Atascadero.
Charles Borbeau here.
Hi, Charles.
Hello.
Thank you. City of Grover Beach.
Desi? No? Nope.
Okay. City of Morro Bay,
Marlis, nope.
City of Paso Robles,
Nope.
City of Pismo Beach,
Sounds like not.
City of Slow,
Here, Andy. And Michael Borman is here.
great.
Staff.
Avila Beach CSD,
No Avila.
okay. Cambria CSD,
Cambria? No.
no. Heritage Ranch CSD,
Nope.
Los Osos CSD. All right.
Nope.
Napomo CSD,
Craig Armstrong.
Thanks. It looked like Ed was here also.
Yes, I'm here.
thanks Ed. Oceano CSD,
Director Gibson, OCSD.
Thank you.
thanks. San Miguel CSD, San Simeon CSD,
Nope. Nope.
and Templeton CSD.
No. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So it looks like 16 voting members. So we have quorum.
Yeah, I got, oh, yeah, 16.
All right. We have a couple doubles. Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to be identified for their attendance for the record? Otherwise, thank you all for being here. All right, and with that, we'll go on to the next item, which is
Sorry.
approval. Oh,
Sorry, I had
Cynthia.
trouble getting myself unmuted. Cynthia Replogle.
Thanks, Cynthia. All right. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the March 4th meeting minutes. Any comments or changes on the minutes from, it's not, oh yeah, that is March 4th. That was our last meeting because we did April 4th was just, or April 1st was just an update. Any comments or changes on the minutes? All right, seeing none, we're going to, since we put this on the agenda, it actually doesn't technically need a motion. And we're going to go by consensus. So at this time, if you vote no, can you please speak up or say so, indicate so in the chat, and then I'll ask for abstain after that. Any no votes? All right, and would anybody like to be on the record for abstaining? If so, you can unmute or identify yourself or just type it in the chat.
I should abstain. I was not present.
Name, please.
Charles Borbeau, Tascadero.
Thanks, Charles.
Nesbitt, EPC, abstain.
Thank you. All right. And Jamie is abstaining. All right, so that's 3 abstains, so the motion carries. Thanks, everyone. All right, now we're going to go to ongoing updates. I'm going to do that same pause that we usually do. I'll just state each item, and if you'd like to speak up, you can either type in the chat or unmute. All right, rain and reservoir report. We actually touched on this briefly during the chatter ahead of time. Glad to have had that March and April rain. That's for sure. Any comment on rain and reservoir report? The drought monitor summary. Groundwater basin management efforts.
This is Greg Graywall.
Hey, Greg.
From District 5. Is there a way, and I don't know if we need to agendize this, that we can add under those reports the well monitoring? And I know that we're going to talk about this when we talk about some other stuff, but one of the main things in our groundwater deal is the water monitoring of the groundwater, the wells, a couple times a year, putting more spots. The DWR and the state both have grant money allocated for that. And I don't know if now is the right time, but I'd like to know what staff is doing, what staff has done, and if anything's being done, because we haven't had a GSA cooperative meeting, that obviously all the agencies that are part of the cooperative group are going to be included in that discussion.
Okay, thanks, Greg. I saw Courtney or Brendan. Is there a staff response on this one?
This is Courtney. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. What I can say is that currently our staff is either assigned to disaster service work or working on the GSPs that are coming due in January of 2022. So, we're not, that's what we're working on right now.
Okay, so something we can look at, but that's not anything that we have we don't have it right now anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
I didn't see a caption. This is Dennis Laux, District 1. I didn't see on the agenda for public comment. I have a few comments. I'm just a bit in a quandary. Where is the best place to address a couple of issues I have?
Oh, for items not on the agenda, you mean?
Yes, and I didn't see that on the agenda here.
Yeah, good catch. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that. Well, usually we do that at the very end of the meeting, so that would be a great time to.
Well, that's fine. I just didn't want to be out of sequence here.
Thank you, and
I'll wait till then.
Okay, great. Okay, great. And there is a comment here from Willie Kuna. I don't know Willie Kuna. SSJ, GSA moving ahead on stream gauge installation project and studying wells for inclusion in monitoring network. Okay, and I see Eric wanting to comment on 3H, so we'll get to that. All right. Great. So integrated waste management, wow, wrong district altogether. The regional water management. Anybody, any comment on the IRWM?
Yeah, this is Brendan, and
yep.
I just wanted to highlight that I'm expecting to bring the plan for endorsement and recommendation to the board for adoption at our next meeting. So wanted to I had that written in there, but just want to highlight that here. So that'll be coming up.
Great. And yeah, I really enjoyed hearing about the projects last time. So that'll be great. Okay, stormwater resource plan. Any comment?
Hi, this is Sarah Kribel here with County Public Works. So I do have an update for the Stormwater Resources Plan. The State Board did release the Round 2 Stormwater Grant solicitation information on April 17th. So everyone that is on our Stormwater Resource Plan project list is eligible to apply for grant funding. And so that list is available on the Stormwater Resource Plan website. So those people that have been participating in this process, they are eligible if they choose to go through that grant process. I understand that this is a difficult time, but it's not the county's timing, it is the state board's timing. So if there are any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me. As far as I know, there is one person that is in the process, or one project that is in the process of going for this. And also a part of this update, we did have a working group set up through the RWMG, and we had to postpone that process because of COVID. So I will be reaching out to those people that volunteered to be in that RWMG working group, and I will try to set up a meeting for next Thursday with those individuals now that we have the grant guidelines. And in addition, if anyone is interested in a webinar for this process, the state board has a webinar on May 12th at 2 p.m., which will give additional information on how to fill out the grant application. And like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, call or email, and I can answer any questions now or after the meeting.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Questions?
Andy, this is Greg Graywall from District 5.
Go for it.
Sarah, are we allowed to participate in that, or is that something that a county staffer has to participate in? So our GSP, some of our main stuff is stormwater capture. In our GSP, there's specific maps in different areas. I'm putting together an overlay right now of those maps that show the alluvium area, the contours, the main rivers, and all the main spots that stormwater capture should take place from all the work that's already been done. And so I know that is one of the other main things that the state is giving money for to the GSAs is for groundwater capture, subsidence, and well monitoring. So do I need to get in touch with you to participate, or is that something that the staff has to do?
Okay, so the way this stormwater resource plan process works and the stormwater grant program process works is that anyone can be a project proponent if they're a public agency or a 501c3 nonprofit. So, that kind of narrows down who can be a project proponent. The second part of it is that there has to be a project proponent. So meaning someone that is going to undertake this process of doing the design work. So paying for the design work, securing the permitting, securing the environmental, so that they can actually have a project manager for a project that they submit for this grant program or this grant application. So yes, you can submit a project to the Stormwater Resource Plan project list, but it has to have the backing of a project proponent. Now, I think you're asking a bit more about like, well, is the county going to be a project proponent? I think that process is something that I'm not aware of, or I'm not sure how your GSA is going to decide. I think there's a set process on how a GSA will proceed with project selection, project prioritization, and that's not something that the county itself can decide to do. There's a GSA process that's separate from that. And I don't know if Courtney has any further details about that, and I'm not sure if that fully answers your question.
Well, the process was that we formed these GSAs, and then we we hired a consultant to put together what we were going to do. And so now we haven't had a meeting in a while with the GSAs, and stormwater capture was one of the main things. We started this process, and we're going to talk about the emergency ordinance and stuff later, in 2013. It's 2020. I don't want to wait until 2022, 24, 28, 32, when they're finally going to do something that we're recommending to do. That obviously I'm just a representative and I live in the county, but if the county has 61%, the other participants in the GSA cooperative also have to agree or have to participate, which is why they made the GSP. So I need to know what the process is, and we can talk about it later, so that I can tell my representatives or the other people, hey, here's what we need to work towards, but without having any GSA meetings or any updates, I don't know how that gets done.
Yeah, and I understand that can be, this happened very quickly, and I understand that, this groundwater, these items have been in the works for a long time. I think that this stormwater grant program solicitation that has been released, it is going to close on July 2nd. And so these projects are going to have all of that information. I think the truth is that, I don't know that the GSAs have substantial enough information to go out for this grant program unless they are in a DAC community. But these are for construction projects. These are for implementation projects. So once again, I don't know how far along these projects are, these GSA projects are. But the design is going to have to be far enough along to be able to submit a grant or fill out the grant application by July 2nd. And I think, I'm going to have to, I think, defer to Courtney, where she referred to several studies that were being taken place on what needs to be done first before we can have a set of projects that the GSAs are going to do.
Yeah, this is Courtney. I concur with what Sarah's gone over and what Greg brings up in terms of needing to have the next GSA meetings to be able to talk about implementation and moving forward. I did want to mention that we applied for a Civic Spark to help us with stormwater efforts. So that should be coming this summer.
Thank you, Sarah and Courtney. So Courtney, one, just as a follow-up, a Civic Spark to help us, meaning the county overall, or specific to the Paso groundwater management plan?
I think the effort could benefit the whole county. Basically, the idea would be for this person to help us bring together all of the requirements and regulations and steps and maybe examples of others who have done these kinds of projects so that we can learn and know what steps to take.
All right. So then in summary, it sounds like the types of projects in the future, basin management plans could apply for this type of grant, but we're just not far enough along in committed project and design development to apply this round. So, and then Sarah, is your sense of availability of funds and the number of applicants, are you looking that there should be more applicants? Are we leaving money on the, potential funding opportunities on the table, not related to basins, but just overall? Or are we all, do we have the appropriate amount of applicants at this time?
So it would be great to see more people that could apply, but a lot has happened with COVID, so I don't know. We have RCDs that have applied. We have cities that have, RCDs and cities who have projects on the project list. I understand that revenue, if it wasn't already secured for these projects, may be down for cities because of tourism being down. I understand that it may not be a priority right now to apply for a grant, to pay a grant writer to help out with an application. There is $100 million statewide. The first round one, did go to a lot of larger municipalities, like in LA, because the stormwater program really had leaned towards people with green streets or communities with green streets, or a lot of urbanized areas, so that, and so these larger communities had funding secured. So yes, we are potentially leaving some money on the table, but it's my understanding that this round, they are favoring smaller projects. And that's just all kind of like rumors and talking with some consultants that helped develop this grant program for the state board. But going forward, it's my understanding that we're going to have to, any sort of state funding is going to have multi-benefits. If they're going to receive grant fund, any sort of stormwater project or water project is going to have multiple benefits, most likely have a stormwater component. So this isn't the last time that we can get grant funding, but for now, we only have until July 2nd. And it's important to note that the county isn't the one filling out the grant applications. This is going to be on the project proponent, whoever that may be. So we are just helping facilitate with the information. And we have, since we've completed and reached concurrence with this stormwater resource plan, all of these project proponents are now eligible for this type of funding.
All right. Awesome. All right, great. Thank you for all of that and for the question.
One last thing, Andy. This is Greg Graywall.
Yep.
Okay, so I participated on January 8th of this year for a management workshop by the state, the DWR and the State Water Control Board, which at that time, they gave us paperwork from the State Water Control Board for stormwater grant money for the GSAs that put together their GSPs. So is this money that was from that meeting, if you know or don't know, different than what we're talking about right now? Because at that time they said you didn't have to have a project that was ready to go. It just had to be part of your GSP, that stormwater capture was a part of that, of how you were gonna help your basin. If we can't get the money and we can't do the project, I don't know how you think you're going to manage the basin.
Yeah, you do bring up a good point with that, but I do think that it would be great if you could send me the information that you went to for that January workshop, because as far as I know, this is Prop 1 Stormwater Resource Plan, like grant program. This is very specific. It has very specific details. I mean, if you're a DAC, there may be some things that are not required, but this is an implementation grant. So this is for building a project. This is not for designing a project. This is not for conceptual phase of a project. Like, your project does need to have some information that is going to lead to construction and completion of permitting and completion of CEQA within a certain amount of time after the award of this. So if you would like to send me that information that you went to in January, I think we can make sure that we're talking about the same thing, or make sure we're talking about different things.
All right.
Dennis Oxford, District 1.
Yep, Dennis.
Yeah, it sounds, is the county writing any grants or going after any money, or are they just counting on proponents of projects and letting it go in that fashion? It seems that the county should be spearheading some things in order to secure money.
So yes, the county, you're correct. The county is not applying for any grants for this. The county does not have, it had one project on this, and they went in ahead with the project before this reached concurrence, and they took out some USDA loans, as far as I understand. But no, the county is not going for anything. It is for project proponents to apply for.
Okay. I guess, is that a policy issue that's been brought forth by the Board of Supervisors, or is this an internal decision by management of the Public Works? I mean, you can go two different directions here, and I just don't know how that direction occurred. It seems as though that the county should be trying to go after some grant money for specific projects rather than counting on proponents of projects. Is that at the direction of county staff, or is it policy from the Board of Supervisors? I guess that's my question.
This is, oh.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, this is Courtney. We don't have any projects to apply for this round. So not really, it's just we don't have anything that's eligible right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sorry about that. My screen froze for a moment. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. So it sounds like the county, in theory, can be a proposer on a project. It's just at this time they don't have anything that's ready to go for it. But in the future, maybe we should talk about that more in terms of. I think Greg and Dennis are bringing up a good point overall, that all of our basins are going to be wanting to understand a little bit better about the actual management projects and how we how the GSAs are going to actually secure funding and apply for grants, et cetera. So that might be either a RAC topic or a sidebar kind of topic for those involved, specific to the basins. But if anybody has further questions, please reach out to Sarah directly. Okay, let's keep going down here. So we're on State Water Project. Anybody have questions on that? Questions or comments?
Yes, this is Greg Graywall from District 5. And I didn't know, last time we got together in the minutes, there was a little bit of a state water talk going from the twin tunnels project to a single tunnel project. And I don't know if we're going to talk about this in depth here later, but you know, we have, and Courtney can correct me if I'm wrong, we have one contractor, that's the County of San Luis Obispo. We have 10 subcontractors that get water from the county. We put in $1 million turnout in Shandon, and over the last 3 years, we've used 140 acre feet of water out of the 300 we could have used. I find it amazing, and we use about 10,000 total out of the 25,000 allocation that we have for the county. The county taxpayers are paying for this allocation with zero benefit, while the subcontractors in the county take the benefit and store the water, and the percentage is based off of that total. And most of the time, I have all the records from ever since the water line was opened up, that we're lucky if we get anywhere between 20 to 40%. And sometimes we get 5%. Why would you invest in more of this when you don't get what you pay for right now? And why did we put a turnout in Shandon if you're not going to use the water?
Greg, that seems more of a statement, and we'll put it on the record, right? I mean, we're not. I don't see a staff response at this time. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, great.
My understanding is the board will have a date in a couple of months, perhaps, when they look at whether to participate in this tunnel thing, in some of the studies in the tunnel thing, and hopefully we'll get a crack at it first.
Yeah.
Right. This is. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's $1 million investment for the CEQA, and that doesn't include anything else. But if we don't get the 25,000 acre feet that we're already trying to get, and we only use 10, I don't know how you think you're going to get more when you don't get what you're already paying for.
Courtney, did you have a comment that you want to chime in on?
Sure, yeah, I wanted to say that the next step is to go to the board on June 2nd to authorize enter into a joint funding agreement with the Central Coast Water Authority. We're going to hire a consultant to evaluate how we can use the Water Management Tools Amendment that we anticipate being available in the coming months in order to make better use of our state water, maybe enter into agreements with others, recover some of the costs of state water, and then look at maybe some of the long-term strategies that open up if we were to move forward with the Water Management Tools Amendment. And again, the Water Management Tools Amendment replaces the requirement to go through the turnback pool and opens it up to more of a sales and exchange agreement where we can do more of a market rate and recover more of our costs for state water so that we can retain it in the long term for any of our long-term needs, which we're also evaluating concurrently to try to help the board or provide more information to the board as they're considering the long-term strategy with state water. So in terms of steps, we see the first step is entering into this joint funding agreement with CCWA so that we can study the Water Management Tools Amendment further. And then the Water Management Tools Amendment itself, we'd come back to the board with that, again, would allow us to sell water at more of a market rate rather than the turnback pools, and we would cover more of the cost of state water. And then the delta would be the third step, whether or not it makes sense to participate in that. So we're still kind of analyzing that and would go through that sequence of, RAC and board and state water subcontractors in terms of vetting each of these items.
Great, thanks, Courtney. And what kind of timing do you think that would be for it to come back to RAC for update and input?
I think we could give an update at the June meeting on the Water Management Tools Amendment.
Okay.
I think the June 2nd one is before this next RAC meeting.
Correct.
But so this is an important study that, to help us answer all of these questions.
One last thing.
Sorry, Greg. Hold up. Greg,
Okay.
hold up. I want to finish the question. Okay, so an update in June, and then maybe the consultant will start having some information in the fall, or?
Right.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you. Greg Berrywell, District 5. Okay, so my concerns are this. We have 10 subcontractors that are benefiting from the water. I didn't know that the rest of the county was in a program where we're selling water. And all the rest of us are not getting a benefit from this. If those 10 subcontractors need more water, they should be the ones funding this. And I find it amazing that we have money to hire a consultant to look at this state water project when we don't have the money to put up for stormwater capture. Thank you.
Feedback noted. Thank you. Sorry, we'll go Dennis, then Jim.
Okay. I guess my question is, it sounds like there's a tremendous amount of staff time being used for this project. And has this received Board of Supervisors approval to go into this depth on this project, or is this doing the project and then hoping that the Board of Supervisors approves what is being proposed? It sounds like. I mean, I'm wondering if we're getting the cart before the horse. It'd be nice to have a green light from the BOS before you spend tens of thousands of dollars of staff time if this doesn't go anywhere.
This is Courtney again. So part of, the study would be funded by the subcontractors through our, contracts with them, because part of the looking at those water management tools is how those subcontractors can also participate and benefit from the amendment. So it'll be a comprehensive look.
Thank you. And Jim.
Oh, yeah. So I'm thinking that there are some significant advantages to the fact that San Luis County has 25,000 acre feet available. We, for the most part, have not been able to access that water because, in part, we don't have an agreement with CCWA to utilize CCWA pipeline capacity when state water project availability is low and Santa Barbara County can't get their entitlements yet, the capacity is there. And I'm just thinking that when Courtney makes a presentation next month or the month after, those issues that illustrate how we can avail ourselves of some or quite a lot of that 25,000 acre feet of water during times when the state water project is down in capacity, and yet San Luis Obispo County still has more water than it presently uses. So that's my comment.
Gotcha. Thank you. Hold on. Let's lose power here. Okay. Anything else on state water? Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on. We're already running a little tight here. Okay. Let's see. The flood control water conservation district budget, which was out last month. Hopefully. Any comments on that or updates?
One thing, this is Greg Graywalt. Here at one of the last Board of Supervisors meeting, they extended the availability of the Los Osos people paying on their sewer amounts of water, and I understood that possibly why they're not paying on it until this COVID thing is over, that money could be taken from flood control district. Is that true, false, or any of the above?
Sorry, this is Courtney. If you look at category B in the spreadsheet, I think it's the second page of the 5-year plan. They have, over the last several years, received a loan from the Flood Control District. The deferment of the rate or implementation of the new charges, that percent increase, it means that they won't be paying that back as quickly as the new charges would allow. So the loan is already in place.
Okay.
Well,
Does that answer the question, Greg?
Yes and no. I mean, in 2007, they voted that they understood that they would possibly be paying $200, and they're paying $165, and it's going up to $199, and now they have a problem with it. So what is that? 13 years ago, they knew what the total was going to be. I didn't know that we were in a loan program. Again, we keep doing all these other projects and these other things, but we don't seem to have money to do the stuff that, to me, is more important to a larger area in our 5 basins.
All right. Noted. Thank you. Okay, let's keep going. Next item is H, various county water programs, policies, and ordinances. I know Eric Greening had a comment.
Yeah, I guess it's not an exact fit for this, but there wasn't on the agenda an exact fit for something quite urgent. The Cal Poly Master Plan is before the Board of Trustees for the CSU system next Tuesday. Unbelievably, given how everything is changing, this now obsolete plan with a price tag of $3.2 billion is going to the trustees. I wrote down the information on what email to send any comments to, and to refer to the agenda item 2 of the Committee on Campus Planning, Buildings and Grounds. The water issues are based on faith in, I guess, the limitless capacity of Whale Rock through climate change for decades. But what is not disclosed and even not responded to relative to my own comments on the draft DIR is, if they're so sure they have all the water they need from Whale Rock, why are they sniffling around looking for water from other sources? They failed to disclose anywhere in the EIR the information that is documented in the minutes that I wrote down November 12th in Morro Bay. I don't know where else they've been poking around looking for water. They have an obligation under CEQA to analyze the impacts of any place they're looking. So there are serious issues there. Not to mention that it's an obsolete project in the new world we're coming into. People are invited to investigate and comment.
Thank you, Eric. All right, anybody else have anything for water programs or any other, we're on 3I, other reporting of conservation opportunities, etc. All right. Seeing none, thank you. Robust discussion as always. Appreciate this group. Okay, next item is consider recommending Cynthia Replogle, I hope I got that close, for environmental at large alternate member. Cynthia, do you want to say a quick something about your interest?
Sure, thank you. And you were pretty close. I think you all know I'm a director on the Oceano CSD, and I was the representative to the RAC from CSD last year. I'm a long-term environmentalist, about 20 years, mostly with Surfrider, including several years as vice chair of our county's chapter here. So I'm very familiar with water issues in the county, and I think I could jump in with both feet and hit the ground running. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Eric Greening, and I think she would probably be my alternate the way things are arranged right now. And so unless there are comments or questions, I would like to make the motion that we recommend Cynthia. She has a great track record among us wearing a different hat, and I would be very pleased to have her reinforcing our environmental forces here.
Great.
This is Shirley Gibson with Oceano CSD. I had a comment to make.
Okay, hold that comment for just a sec, Shirley, and because I'm looking for a second.
You have a second from David Chipping.
Thank you, David. All right, we have a motion and a second. Shirley, go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, basically, Director Ms. Rapogel is a director on the Oceano CSD. I am the appointed representative to this committee, RAC, and I strongly oppose the appointment of Ms. Rapogel to the at-large position. That would really be a conflict of interest for our board. And if you want me to provide some examples of behavior, I can do that. It would be detrimental to our board of directors and to our district.
All right, thank you for your comment. Any other comments?
Eric Greening, I haven't noticed any such behavior on the RAC, and she has been on the RAC. So as an environment, a lot of people who are here representing a particular entity may also happen to belong to other entities. That's not usually considered a conflict. It's just that in a small county, a lot of people often wear a lot of hats.
Christine,
may I speak?
Hold on, Christine, and then we'll go back to you, Shirley.
Thank you.
Yes, I didn't figure out how to unmute before, or I would have seconded or made the motion ahead of time already. I agree with what Eric's saying. We've all read the paper and the issues that are going on in Oceano CSD. This is a different committee. This is a different place to speak out, and many of us wear various hats throughout the county, and I support Cynthia in the environmental at large alternate position. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go back to Shirley, are there any other first comments?
Yes, Andy. This is Charles Borbeau in Atascadero. I hesitate to weigh in. I haven't participated in that many of the meetings, but I was struck by, you have somebody who's already a member of a governmental body. My first reaction would be that the governmental body, if it already has a rep on the committee, shouldn't have another member on there. Although in this case, it appears they're representing two different viewpoints, so it's not as if they're getting, a double dose of representation. But have we ever had? I understand what Eric Greening is saying. People in this small community sometimes do occupy or wear many hats. But have we ever had a situation like this where somebody is an elected representative on a governmental body, also serving as an at-large member on this committee or any other type of county committee that anybody's aware of? Because it just seems a little unusual to me, is why.
Yeah,
well, I'll chime back in. Having served on different committees and as a council member, and I'm just kind of speaking to what I've read about OCSD, and even as a council member, or in years past a PTA member who was kicked off the PTA for having spoken in favor of medical marijuana back in 1992, I don't believe any of us lose our options and opportunities to comment on things in public discourse. And there were times when, as a council member, I spoke publicly in positions opposed to what the majority of council believed, but I don't think that I lost my opportunity or my right to speak my own opinions, regardless of where else I might be serving. My opinion only, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Shirley, and then I also want to remind folks that the process here is that RAC makes a recommendation. It's actually the Board of Supervisors who makes the actual appointment. Correct, right, Brandon?
That is correct.
That's correct. Okay, Shirley, you were next, and then we'll see if there's any other comments.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify that, you know, everyone can and does have a different point of view. But the issue is when our board votes on a policy and that policy is passed, Ms. Ruppogel does what she can to undermine that policy. She doesn't support the policy once it's voted on. And in fact, she actually campaigned against our fire tax while we were trying to pass that with our community, and that didn't help our community. Also, she has harassed our staff at the district office. That's a problem. And, you know, I could mention other things, but I think that gives you an idea of what we deal with. And that she basically does not, you know, she doesn't agree with this. Well, that's fine, but she has the opportunity to voice her difference. But after the vote is taken, she proceeds to still campaign against whatever we're trying to do. So it is a problem for our board and our district.
Okay, thank you for your
It's
comment.
not been a problem for the RAC that I have seen.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else who hasn't? Anybody else who has not spoken yet? Great. We're going to go ahead and vote, and under the circumstances. Sorry, who was that?
I'm sorry. This is Charles Bourbon in Tascadero. I just wanted to add. I mean, I agree with one of the previous speakers that, you know, whatever position we're in, we still have an individual right to speak out, and I certainly don't disagree that Ms. Ruppogel should be perfectly free to go out and, you know, express her disagreement with board decisions, that she's part of the board, just as you or I could go express disagreement with, you know, our city council decisions if we were in the minority. I think we should be careful and respectful how we do it. But that's an internal matter for Oceano. For me, I was just concerned about, you know, an elected person sitting on another body. So I'm just kind of cogitating about that, but I don't begrudge her the opportunity to disagree with her fellow board members about whatever it is, you know, that they're arguing about down there.
All right, thank you. Any other final comments?
Yeah,
I'll
Andy,
take a.
Andy,
Sorry,
I've got one.
Who's that?
Sorry, I was kind of trying to catch you there, but so.
Sorry, who was that?
Pardon me?
Who was that speaking?
This is Tim Walters.
Oh, sorry, Tim. Hey.
No problem. So I guess I would just say that, or maybe to add a point to how this process has worked in the past. I mean, you have people that are alternates. If they're attending a meeting and they're basically in attendance with the member, you know, they're not really a voting member at that point. So there may be some opportunities for the new candidate to vote, but the reality is right now they're just kind of an attending member that can speak out and support the person that they're the alternate member for and things like that. So I think you have to weigh in on the fact that she's being supported by the environmental at large group, and you know they're asking for our support in bringing somebody forward that's, you know, somebody they support, and I think we should get on board with that, notwithstanding, you know, the controversy. There's plenty of controversy in this group, I can tell you.
We are champions of controversy here.
Yes, we are.
in a good way. I'm proud of us. Okay, thank you for that. Any other ones? I know it always takes a minute to unmute. All right, and
Can I ask a question, Andy? This is
Sorry.
Charles Bourbeau again in Atascadero. How, I assume Mr. Pogel applied, but otherwise, what's the process for, recommending or getting it to this point on the agenda to recommend a particular individual? Was it just there was an opening, there's one app, or was there multiple applications and somebody reviewed them? What was the process?
In this case, and I'll let Brendan make sure that I got this right. Sometimes we have multiple applications, and sometimes we've even had an ad hoc committee go through it. I think in this case, we've had a standing opening, and we got an application, and so the application period has been open, and so it was brought to the one application was brought to this body. Is that correct, Brendan?
Yeah, we've had 2 environmental at-large alternate positions open for quite some time, and this is the first application we've received. So bringing it to the committee, but ultimately the board makes the decision.
And as you can imagine, all the other, other than the at-large, the other positions are all appointed by their own organization and then are brought forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Dennis Louts, District 1.
Yes, Dennis.
I would like to move on with a vote on this as soon as we can. I mean, this is an advisory committee. It's not really making policy per se. It's recommending things. The applicant can come in public comment and say whatever she feels is relevant or not relevant, and we can make our own choices. So I would prepare or ask that we proceed with a vote and get this behind us.
Yeah, good point. Want to make sure we all have our chance to speak, but I think you're right. And as chair, I'll take the privilege of being able to say that I have full confidence in Cynthia to be able to serve these roles with integrity. So I would support that as well. Brendan, what do you think is going to be quicker? Should we zip down the roll call? I kind of feel like maybe that makes more sense. It's only 16.
I was thinking we could just collect abstains and opposition and.
Okay, well, let's try that. So I'll go ahead and call, I'm going to assume yes, these are usually not controversial. And then I'm going to call for no vote and abstain. And if it looks like it's close, then we'll do a roll call vote. All right. If you are a no, so we have a motion and a second to appoint Cynthia Replogle to environmental at large alternate member. Those opposed, please say nay, and you can type in the chat to help us with the, or no. Any opposed?
Director Gibson of OCSD.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, anyone other than the one, Director Gibson? Okay, any abstain? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much, and Cynthia, welcome.
We do have the board.
All right.
We do have the board hearing. You know, it will go to the board before she's official. It should be done by the next meeting, though. So.
Right, because the board will be the 3rd and we'll be the 4th. Okay, fabulous. All right, going on. It's got just a little bit behind, but we're still pretty close. The next item is to provide feedback to the County Department of Planning and Building on the water neutral new development phase 1.5 proposed ordinance amendments regarding updates to Paso Basin and area of severe decline maps. And there's an ag offset program proposal and clarifying the phrase de minimis. And I think we're turning that over. Is Kylie doing that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, this is Kylie Hensley from the County Department of Planning and Building. Thank you for including me on your agenda today. Brendan, I believe that you're going to share my PowerPoint for me.
Yes, it's up. Can everyone
Okay,
see that
perfect.
for who's connected?
And if you are offline, this full PowerPoint is available on the RAC website for you to follow along.
Andy and Brendan, just to let you know, my internet is cutting in and out, so I can't see people's comments. If anything pressing comes up, please feel free to interrupt me. Otherwise, if you have any comments as I'm working my way through the presentation, if you enter them in the chat function, I will get to them after at the end of my presentation, and then there will also be a chance for people on the phone to share comments at the end as well, or answer or share questions.
Great. And sorry, Kylie, before you start, I just want to make sure everyone is aware that this is an item for feedback, that RAC is not expected to take a position as a body. You know, if there was something that we needed to speak on, we certainly could. Somebody could make a motion as a group, but otherwise, our hope is to hear the information. We can ask questions at the end and provide feedback either today or in writing or in person to the Planning Commission when it comes up there next month. All right.
Thank you, Andy. This item is scheduled for Planning Commission on June 11th. That date is on the end slide if you forget, and my contact information is also on the last slide. Any comments received before Friday will be included in my staff report. Otherwise, they will be shared directly with Planning Commission. So the ordinance amendments I'm discussing are part of a phased update to our water neutral new development ordinance for the county in the Paso Robles groundwater basin. This is phase 1.5. Next slide, please. So starting with an overview of land use policies regarding water usage in the unincorporated areas of the Paso Basin. In September 2012, the County Board of Supervisors adopted amendments to the land use ordinance requiring a 2-to-1 water offsets for new discretionary projects and prohibiting land divisions and general plan amendments that increase water demand within the Paso Basin. And these requirements are in the planning area standards for the Paso Basin. Next slide, please. In August 2013, the Board of Supervisors adopted an urgency ordinance requiring a 1-to-1 water offset for new development dependent on a well, and a 1-to-1 water offset for new or expanded irrigated crop production, and required well meters to be installed when receiving a permit. This created what is known as the Ag Offset Program for the Paso Basin. In October 2015, the board adopted amendments to the land use ordinance and to the building code to continue this 1-to-1 water offset requirement and the requirement to continue to install well meters. And the requirements were set to terminate upon the adoption of the groundwater sustainability plan for the Paso Basin. Next slide. Some background about the Ag Offset Program specifically. Property owners in the county jurisdiction of the Paso Basin are required to apply for a clearance from the Department of Planning and Building for approval to plant new or expanded irrigated crops. And they're required to ensure a 1-to-1 water offset based on average applied water factors that are crop specific and specified in the ordinance. Applicants are required to provide evidence of existing crops, and existing crops that qualify to be converted must have been irrigated within the last 5 years. There is a one-time exemption for sites that do not have existing irrigation and are located outside of what is distinguished as the area of severe decline, to use up to 5 acre-feet per year of water for a one-time planting. Next slide. Continuing the phase 1 amendments of our current amendment cycle, in November 2019, last winter, board adopted amendments to the Land Use Ordinance and Building Code to extend the termination date for the 1-to-1 water offset requirements, both for new construction and for new irrigated crops in the Paso Basin. So the ag offset program was extended. The termination date changed from when the GSP was adopted to January 1st, 2022, to avoid a gap between the GSP adoption date and when it will be implemented. And the amendments also removed the option to transfer planting credits off-site. And it also included a water duty factor for hemp and supplementally irrigated dry croplands, and defined a process to establish a water duty factor for crops that were not specified in the ordinance. Next slide. In November, the board directed staff to bring additional amendments. The phase 1.5 amendments that I'm discussing today require minor environmental review, and phase 2 amendments will require a major environmental review and will be considered at a later date. On February 27th of this year, I presented to the Planning Commission about the phase 1.5 proposed amendments, and your district, some of your district representatives were there, spoke during public comments, and requested that I present to the RAC. Planning Commission directed the item to be continued until after we could do additional outreach, which is why I'm here today. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, will you go back, please, Brendan? There's an error on this slide. So the Planning Commission item was scheduled for April 24th, and that got extended due to COVID, and the new date is June 11th, and the board date is not yet scheduled. Next slide. So to start with an overview of the phase 1.5 amendments, there's 4 different sections. The first is to update the Paso Basin map. The second is to update the area of severe decline map. The third is to incorporate a fallowing option into the ag offset ordinance. And the fourth is to clarify the phrase de minimis in the ag offset ordinance. And I'll go into more detail for each of these items one at a time. Next slide, please. And the phase 2 amendments that will come for review at a later date require major environmental review. I won't be discussing them in detail today, but they are to expand the 5 acre-feet per year one-time exemption to 25 acre-feet per year, to extend the look-back period for existing crops beyond 5 years, to discuss reallowing off-site ag offset transfers of planting credits, to revisit water offset fees and water usage assumptions for non-agricultural development in the Paso Basin, and to revisit the prohibition on new land divisions and general plan amendments that increase water demand within the Paso Basin. Next slide. So the first amendment of the proposed amendments is updating the Paso Basin map. This change would affect which properties are subject to a 1-to-1 water offset requirement for new irrigated commercial crops, as well as for new construction. And it's not listed here, but cannabis permits as well. And a 2-to-1 water offset requirement for discretionary permits that are non-agricultural. And there's also a 2-to-1 offset requirement for cannabis projects in the area of severe decline, and prohibitions on general plan amendments and prohibitions on land divisions. So next slide. The Paso Basin map that's currently in the land use ordinance and construction ordinance is the FUGRA boundary. And this came out of the local resource capacity studies. And when this map was used before the GSP, the Groundwater Sustainability Plan for the Paso Basin was adopted. And next slide. This map shows the boundary for the Paso Basin that was designated for SGNA purposes by the Department of Water Resources in their Bulletin 118. Our county applied to modify the state recognized boundary to match the FUGRA boundary, and that modification request was denied, which is why this ordinance is coming forward to update the map in the planning ordinance to match the map that's in the GSP. Next slide. So this map shows the change, the difference between the boundaries. The blue area is will remain unaffected, so it's considered in the basin now, and it would be after the change. The green area would be added, so these properties previously were not subject to the restrictions previously discussed, and now they would be. The orange would be removed, so they would no longer be subject to those restrictions. And then the purple shows irrigated crops, and this data is the Ag Department's layer from 2016, and it's the same layer that was referenced in the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. Next slide. This table shows a summary of the changes. Overall, over 100,000 acres would be added to the basin, which would affect 945 properties and 524 property owners. Over 12,000 acres would be removed, 301 properties and 244 property owners. Overall, it would increase the area considered within the Paso Basin by 27%, and a 5% increase in the affected property owners. Most of the existing irrigated lands are unaffected by the change. They fall within the blue area that remains the same. Most of it added is either native vegetation or dryland crops or grazing lands and rural residences. The maps, all of the maps that I'm showing you today are available in an interactive version at the website provided in the presentation. There's an ability to search for a specific parcel or a specific property address to see where it falls within the maps. And all of the property owners who would either their property would be added or removed from the Paso Basin will be noticed in the mail for the next Planning Commission hearing. Next slide. The second proposed amendment is to update the area sphere decline. Currently, the land use ordinance in the as offset ordinance section specifically defines the area severe decline as the minus 50-foot contour in the spring groundwater elevation change map. And the map that's currently in the ordinance, it uses the data set from spring 1997 and spring 2013, and then pulls the contour from the contour map. So the area severe decline is the area where groundwater levels have dropped 50 feet or more over a certain period of time. And those water levels are based on the monitoring network maintained by the County Department of Public Works through voluntary wells as well as publicly owned wells. And I know that that data is being updated, but this is the data that was available at the time the ordinance was adopted. The change would update the areas for decline, the contour map to use spring 1997 and spring 2017 data. So it would be 4 years more recent data, and would use the hydrologic model that was updated for the GSP as well. This change would affect which properties are subject to the exclusion from the one-time 5 acre-feet per year exemption for new irrigated crop production. So properties within the areas for decline are not eligible for that exemption. And for cannabis activities permits, properties in this area for decline require a 2-to-1 water offset. Next slide. So this map shows the current areas for decline with the food grow boundary. And again, this is using spring 1997 and spring 2013 data, the areas where water levels drop 50 feet or more. Next slide. The new map is shown here, the proposed new map with the updated passive basin boundary using the Sigma boundary. This map uses spring 1997 and spring 2017 data, and is still the area where groundwater levels have dropped 50 feet or more based on the data set. Next slide. This map shows the change. So again, the blue is unaffected, green is areas added, orange is areas removed, and the purple is the irrigated crops layer from the Ag Department. Next slide. The summary of the change, proposed change, shows that over 26,000 acres would be added to the areas for decline, which is 455 properties and 300 affected property owners. Almost 37,000 acres would be removed, almost 1,800 properties and over 1,400 property owners. Overall, this would result in a decrease in affected area by -14%, a decrease in affected properties by 32%, and a decrease in affected property owners by 34%. The added areas are in the Estrella Whitley Gardens vicinity, along, Navajo Creek Road, north of Highway 58, and west of Creston. And again, this interactive map is available at the website provided. The third proposed change is regarding fouling. The Board of Supervisors directed planning staff to consider a fouling option within the constraints of the existing ag offset program, which expires on January 1st, 2022. Property owners, they may apply for an on-site clearance to quantify their existing water demand per the requirements of the ordinance and receive approval to plant new irrigated crops that use that same amount of water until January 1st, 2022, after which the ordinance expires. Applicants are required to submit evidence of existing irrigated crop production within the last 5 years, and the proposed amendment clarifies that a proposed planting plan is not required to be submitted with the initial application. So for example, if there was a grower who was coming up on their 5th year of not irrigating, if one more year goes by, they would no longer be eligible to apply for an offset clearance, but they don't want to irrigate. They could apply for an on-site ag offset clearance, provide documentation that they had irrigated within the last 5 years. They would get approval from our department, quantifying that existing water demand. They could wait an additional year if they wanted to plant. Again, this ordinance expires January 1st, 2022. Beyond that, there's within the realms of the GSP management actions. Next slide. Clarifying the fourth proposed change to clarify the term de minimis in the ag offset ordinance. There's two conflicting definitions. The county land use ordinance defines de minimis as the de minimis exemption for the ag offset program, using up to 5 acre-feet per year of water for commercial irrigation, and the groundwater sustainability plan per Sigma requirements defines de minimis use as extractors who use 2 acre-feet per year or more for domestic purposes. So these definitions are at odds. The proposed amendment would exclude the phrase de minimis from the land use ordinance to avoid confusion with the GSP. The one-time 5 acre-feet per year exemption would remain in place. For new irrigated crops, there would be no change in effect, just the de minimis label would be removed from the exemption. Next slide. The environmental determination proposed for these amendments is an addendum to the supplemental environmental impact report for the Countywide Water Conservation Program approved in 2015, and a categorical exemption for the amendments to the Passive Basin Planning Area Standards. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the next hearing is scheduled June 11th for Planning Commission. The board hearing is to be determined, and the timing of the Phase 2 amendments is also to be determined. Next slide. The proposed amendments and the interactive map is available at the website provided. My contact information is on this slide. Note that I am working from home, so I'm unable to accept incoming calls, but if you call that number and leave a voice message, I will get back to you. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to hear any questions or any comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Kylie. And so let's see if anyone has any questions of Kylie.
District 1.
Okay.
Yeah, Dennis, Louts, District 1.
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis, thanks.
Yeah, a couple of things. On one of the slides that had on the offset, a 1-to-1 offset for new construction on this proposed area. Are we talking residential use? Because if so, they would be exempt under SGMA because there would be de minimis users under 2 acre-feet for residential purposes. If they're talking commercial, then that 1-to-1 might be applicable, but I think there should be some clarity because there's a conflict there with regards to SGMA and new construction being de minimis use. And then I have another point after that.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you for that question. So the 1-to-1 new construction requirement does apply to residential projects. It's any new construction that requires a construction permit. And this is through the county's building department and planning authority, so not exercising the GSA authority. So SGMA, it created the GSAs, which have authority to manage groundwater extraction. And then the planning and building department has the authority to hold projects accountable to our building code and to our planning standards. So the Department of Planning and Building has the authority to restrict residential use or place requirements on residential use, even if they are considered de minimis under SGMA, because it's not exercising GSA authority.
Okay, well, I have concerns with that. The other, with regards to de minimis, perhaps just for clarity, and this is a suggestion, the water code defines de minimis users. If you had it's been codified and defined in 107.21 subsection E of the water code, and that gets into the 2 acre-feet. If that were placed in there, I think if there's any ambiguity, they could just go back to that section. It's very clear, and that would resolve any de minimis user definition concerns.
Thank you. That de minimis definition is included in the Passive Basin Groundwater Sustainability Plan, and that is why we're proposing to remove that term from the Ag Offset Ordinance to avoid confusion. Again, the planning document is not, so that the planning document would not be using that term de minimis.
All right. Thank
Great,
you.
Great Wall.
Greg. Okay, Greg. And then if anybody else wants to comment, you can queue up by putting your name in the chat. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you. Greg Graywald, District 5. Okay, a lot of this information was taken from Rincon Consultants, a study that was done that was finished in 2015. And the map that's shown there had the underlying lots. The map that was used in this report to give to people should show all those underlying lots and what's on them. If you look in the map that was just shown to all of us, there's first the map with the added area. If you look at the added area, there's no irrigated ag in it. The irrigated ag is in the other area. This report noted that the irrigated ag was grown in certain types of soils, and that's why it was done the way it was done. Adding this area doesn't help. There's no, it's all rangeland, land. Also, the area with the severe decline is not in it. There's no severe decline in any of the new added area. It's all, and it's smaller now than it used to be. Why are we trying to change something with zero benefit? There's no ag in that new area. There's no decline in that new area. This is a bunch of wasted time on working on something when we should have been working on other things. The basin management, and also in Sigma, if you want to line things up, we have a court order that says what the entities can use from the basin, what Paso can use, what the county can use for Shandon and Santa Margarita, what San Miguel can use, and what Templeton can use. I find it amazing, and I gave a copy of that court order to Coyote. This is going to go in front of the Planning Commission, but it hasn't gone in front of the GSA Cooperative Committee, and it's directly connected to the basin management. And I think the water code and the definition in the water code on de minimis means something, because it specifically talks about residential use and the difference between residential use and commercial use. We shouldn't be trying to rewrite the law or rewrite terms. We should be doing what's appropriate. And the building department might want to relook at some of their stuff, because if you're a de minimis user, you shouldn't be paying an extra $5,000 that's going to be on your tax rolls forever to build a house. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. And Kylie, if you have a response, great. Otherwise, it maybe as a comment noted.
I'll respond briefly. Thank you for your comment, Greg. The first thing, that the maps in the presentation don't show the underlying lots. After the comments received at the last Planning Commission hearing, we made an interactive version of the maps available online so people can see. Regarding the court order is still in progress. It's not something that I can comment on at this time. And just to reiterate what I said to Dennis's comment, there's a difference between GSA authority and planning authority. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, I saw David Chipping's hand go up, so he'll be next, and then Steve Sinton and then Christine. David?
Yes, I was sort of concerned in comparing slide 19 and slide 8. In the level 2 amendments, there's talk about going from 5 acre-feet to 25 acre-feet on the allowance and an extension of look-back time from 5 years to whatever, up to 5. But it would seem to me in the basin that it's still showing decline. That
David?
Yes?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I want to make sure we're not commenting on the phase 2, only the 1.5. So you're welcome to use phase 2 to circle back to 1.5, but we're not.
Okay, this is make this a noted comment. But if the intention is to bring phase 2 in, it seems rather silly to ignore it. This is a particular stage. Anyway, that's my comment. I think it's very scary that they're trying to obviously increase the amount of pumpage that would be allowable. End of comment. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Steve.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know whether people noticed, but the Shandon San Juan District submitted some comments, and it's posted in our agenda, but it was posted late because we got it in late. So if you want to see the comments, you can do that. I'll just summary on the fallowing. For every basin, fallowing is going to be the cheapest, easiest way to get water use down, and we need to encourage fallowing wherever we possibly can. And people right now are irrigating to protect their water rights. All of us. Our second comment had to do with off-site water offsets, which is kind of the heart of this thing. And what we're worried about is that we're concerned about any offset that's going to damage the basin in any way or to harm a neighbor. And an example of how that might happen is somebody who's pumping water at the end of the basin down at San Miguel might sell their water use to somebody in the red zone. And so you've got a circumstance where the benefit is non-existent and the detriment is quite obvious, and that you're exacerbating the problem in the worst spot. Water's coming theoretically from a place that's not even, that's barely in the basin. And there are lots of other examples, but I'm trying to keep it quick here. And then I'm going to agree with Greg on the comment about the changing the maps, and we have more extensive comments, but those red zone maps are made by extrapolation from a few wells, and the monitoring network has to be a lot more complete before we can have accurate maps. So I feel, one, that the map shouldn't be tinkered with without more data, and second of all, it is a GSA and a GSP issue, and it should be all run through the Paso Basin Coordinating Committee. It shouldn't be just a county issue. It used to be a county issue, but things have changed and the counties agreed to coordinate with the other GSAs. And finally, I'm going to, even though David was criticized for doing so, I'm going to comment on changing the 5 acre feet to 25 acre feet in the phase 2, because if you think about how much water 25 acre feet per, and I don't know what a site is, but let's say if it were per parcel, you could be talking about thousands and thousands of acre feet of additional water that could be taken when we're already in a shortfall. So these are our comments. I hope you have a chance to look at them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Kylie,
Andy,
did you want to comment?
Respond? Yes,
yeah,
please.
Sure can. Go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. I did receive your letter, and I had a chance to review it for the meeting. Thank you for bringing it up and summarizing. And you're specifically addressing your comment that this item should go before the cooperative committee. Previously, when my department was bringing forward the phase 1 amendment to extend the expiration date for the ag offset ordinance and the 101 water offset for new construction, our understanding was that the basin management or the cooperative committee did not want to comment on land use policy. And we actually were scheduled for the cooperative committee meeting that was postponed due to COVID, just as a presentation, not to receive any formal recommendations. But I will share your comments with my department and follow up with you. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. And Christine.
Yes, hi.
I'm wondering why the only crop that's mentioned is cannabis. Alfalfa is not called out, tomatoes are not called out, alcohol farms are not called out. Why is only cannabis called out? You're never going to have as big a planting of cannabis as an alcohol farm. Why is the one ag product called out? Thank you.
Hello. Hello, this is Kylie. Thank you. I'll just respond briefly. In my presentation, I called cannabis out specifically because of the way it's treated in our land use ordinance. And based on the board's direction and the cannabis ordinance, it's regulated through the discretionary land use permit project. So any cannabis activity is required to apply and receive a land use permit and is subject to environmental review, whereas any other irrigated crop would typically be exempt from the land use ordinance, and the ag offset program only applies to irrigated crops as they're defined in the land use ordinance, which excludes cannabis.
Thank you.
Hey, Andy.
Yeah, Greg.
I'd like to say one last thing.
Okay, one last thing, then we're going to wrap up.
Okay, I think we need to get a clarification from county council, or at least I would like a clarification from county council, because I've already spoken to Dan Dow, the district attorney, on this item. The date that a judge signs an order is the date that order is put into effect. This order was signed June 7th of 2019. So for staff to continue saying that this is not over is ridiculous. The order was signed by the Superior Court, and this needs to be implemented because it's part of the basin management. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We are nearing the end of our meeting time here. So if anybody does have additional comments, please go ahead and send them into Kylie, and obviously everyone's welcome to make their comment directly to the Planning Commission as well. Thank you, Kylie, for all the information and providing this opportunity.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
And I just want to make sure, were there any members not of RAC who wanted an opportunity to comment at this time? You can unmute and chime in. Okay, great. All right, so just a couple more items here before we close up. One is just a check-in on the virtual meeting format. Brendan, did you have something in particular you wanted to check in on? I think this worked reasonably well. I was pretty happy with it, and who knows, doubtful that a group of 30 people will be able to get together in a month in person. And then we take off July and August, so I think we probably just have one more month of this, and then we'll see what happens in the fall. Brendan, did you have a particular?
Yeah, I just wanted, to open it up if there are any thoughts, or I agree. I think this has worked pretty well, all considering, and so just wanted to make sure we were getting thoughts and comments from the membership if they thought this was working, this didn't work, or we have way better software, try this, or just wanted to make sure we discussed or at least opened it up for discussion on how we were doing this meeting, and like you mentioned, most likely the next meeting, for sure. And again, I thought this worked pretty well, and I'd be comfortable doing this in June. But I wanted to, if there are no comments, great. But if anyone had any thoughts, that I want to make sure I heard those. And they could send them to me offline. So
great. Anybody have any concerns that they want to voice now?
Yeah, this is Christine. It's not so much a concern, but a comment. I have not done this before, but I have friends and family who are using Zoom for all kinds of things and have used GoToMeetings. And the reports I'm getting from people who have used both, Zoom works better, that this is old technology. And so I'm just putting it out there. If anyone thinks that maybe Zoom works better, maybe we should try that next time, just in case we have to continue with it. I was fine with today's meeting, and thank you all.
All right, thanks. We'll keep exploring. All right, and then it's not on the agenda, but I do want to make sure, let's see, I guess future agenda items, other than having a public comment for items not on the agenda. Is there anything else that in particular, it looks like we'll have an update on state water and the consultant next time. Anything else that folks want to make sure get covered at the June meeting that's not already on the list? All right, well, if you have something, feel free to email me and or Brendan. And then the comments for items not on the agenda. Was it Dennis who had something?
Yeah, I've got 2 points I'd like to talk about. I'll be brief because I know time's short.
Yep, thank you.
The number one is, in review of the agenda, we are routinely advised of the range of fault, measures and the leak capacities and so forth. I'd like to see an additional item to be supplied by county staff, and that would be the status of grant applications as it relates to water resources in the county. Specifically, I'd like to know what grant applications have been submitted, the nature of the application and amount. 2, the grant applications being written, the nature and the amount. And the third one being the successful grant applications awarded, the nature and the amount. I think these are important aspects because as time and money gets, money's going to be very tight coming in. I think the county's going to run out with this COVID-19. But my request is consistent with our Article 1 purposes of the committee, which includes financing of water resources programs. So perhaps that could be a future agenda item if you so wish. The second aspect, or second comment that I have, in our last meeting, the topic of well monitoring of county-owned wells was raised, and from the response from county staff, it was evident that this was not at the forefront of projects being considered. In order to manage water resources, it is necessary to have a means of accurately measuring well depths as they fluctuate over time, as well documented in the Paso Robles Basin GSP. In fact, all basins, I believe, in the county should have accurate well measurement in real time and posted on a county website so that we can see what's going on a day-to-day basis. I guess a question to staff on this issue, since it didn't seem to be getting much traction, is if this becomes a policy of the Board of Supervisors to establish a countywide well monitoring program, will it then be addressed in a serious manner? Because truthfully, I don't believe it is. And I think we need to know what we have if we're going to manage. You have to know what assets you have if you're going to manage it. And it's critical for the management of all water resources within the county to have such information readily available. And that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dennis. Does staff have a comment in the moment? Otherwise, we can kind of talk offline and see how these can be addressed. But if Brendan or someone has a
just quickly to clarify about the grants, do you mean grants county-wide or grants just the flood control district in the county?
Well, the ones that are applicable, the ones that are applicable to water resources. I mean, that's in my comments. I said the status of grant applications as it relates to water resources in the county. We don't need to know of grants being secured by the county if it doesn't apply to water resources. That would be irrelevant to our purpose as a committee.
But the cities are doing a ton of grant applications.
If the cities are doing it, it'd be nice to know as well, because that does impact if they're pumping well water like the city of Paso and other entities, yes. And I would like to see that as well. But there needs to be a clearinghouse, and perhaps county staff could be that clearinghouse to provide all of that documentation to RAC so that we have a clear picture of assets we have.
All right, we'll check in and see kind of what's available already and what would be a reasonable way to be able to provide meaningful update on that.
Sure, I meant it as a discussion item, not as a, you know,
Yeah.
It could be fine tuned.
Yeah, Dennis, and just to make sure I'm the discussions that we'll have after this, based on your comment, could you email me just kind of what your comments are, so I can make sure when I discuss this offline with others that I have the right thing.
I actually wrote them down before my meeting.
Perfect. If you could email that to me, that would. All right. Awesome.
So.
Great.
Andy, Greg Graywall.
Go ahead, Greg.
I don't know if Jamie from Atascadero Water Mutual is still on the line, but I understand a few weeks ago that the I think it was the State Water Control Board, either made them or they had to shut down 4 of their wells because of some type of contamination. And so I don't know if she has any information on that she could bring at the next meeting, or if she wants to say anything now. I just saw an article in the Atascadero News that explained that there was something that dealt with, from my understanding, with the borate that's dropped from firefighting air equipment that somehow somebody thought it was affecting the water.
Huh. Yeah, I think she had to take off already, but we can certainly reach out and see if she has something she'd like to share for the benefit of the group. Good idea.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it's 3:30. Got it on time.
Yeah, we're just barely. So, any final anything before I close out? Awesome. All right. So our next meeting will be June 3rd, 2020 at 1:30, presumably by teleconference. Thanks everyone for your patience in getting through this, and we'll talk to you next month. Bye.